Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. Carol Foster III has just written a new novel that follows one woman's journey to discover the conspiracy behind her father's death. It's titled Justice RX. Carol is sitting right here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Carol, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Corey. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Can you tell me all about Justice RX? What are readers going to find here?
Justice RX is the name of a tarot card. When the Justice card is reversed, it shows the need to straighten everything out, and that's where the title came from.
So what's the story in the book? What's the synopsis?
It's about a woman who's trying to find the reason that her father died. He lost his life from a fall from a balcony when she was a toddler. And she's alone at this time and needs purpose. And so she's gone back to find out what happened. And she reads his old daytimers. So in effect, we're reading her journal while she reads his.
Carol, what kinds of readers did you have in mind for it?
Well, it's a book about a woman written by a woman. So I think a woman would understand more. But it's also for anyone who understands the corporate world or the early tech world and where AI came from.
So how'd this come about? What was that spark that made you decide to start on it?
Well, it's kind of strange. My husband witnessed an event that was very similar to what I wrote about in 1975. And he actually wrote a nonfiction about it. And his agent said, "No way, you're asking for a lawsuit." So it ended right there. And he couldn't turn it to fiction. He's real. I'm the one who lives in fantasy land. So I picked it up, made it the timeline 35 years later, gave the man a daughter, and there she is, trying to find out what happened.
So what's your writing background? Have you been published before this?
No, this is the first. I've done, when I did hypnotherapy, I've done written scripts. I've done ad copy. I've done bad poetry. This was the very first. And I just felt like I wanted to do it, and it worked.
So once you had this all ready and you started working with your publisher, Newman Springs, what do you think was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
It was so smooth. There was nothing challenging. It went smoothly. They corrected a lot of punctuation, but little else. It just worked.
So there's nothing like that finished product, and you're finally holding the first copy in your hands of this, Carol. What was that like for you?
Well, I used a pen name. I added 3 to my name, Carol Foster III, because there are so many Carol Fosters. And it was almost like I was happy for someone else. It was kind of a strange feeling that I just was glad to see it, but didn't claim it somehow.
So now that you're a published author, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think being validated by seeing 5 stars on the Amazon review, there was nothing like that. That was so much fun.
So looking ahead, do you plan on writing and publishing more, do you think?
I have 2 completed manuscripts now. One's ready to go and one's on the final editing draft. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it and look forward to doing more.
So when you start to write, are you the kind of author that works out of a sort of outline of sorts, or do you just start with an idea and see where it goes from there?
Actually, neither one. My characters start as kind of a dream, sort of wispy, and then they solidify and they tell me what to write. I have nothing to do with it. It's out of my control.
So I'd say writer's block probably isn't something you deal with then.
It is not. If it's not in my mind, I don't even go near a keyboard.
Well, we have a lot of listeners who are authors just starting out as well. Carol, do you have maybe some advice that you could throw out there for them?
I think the best advice is don't take any advice. They know what's in their mind. They know what's in their heart. They have something to say it, something to write it, and then decide what to do.
I think a lot of readers are going to love this book. Again, it's titled Justice RX, written by Carol Foster III and published by Newman Springs Publishing. You can find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Carol, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so great talking with you.
Oh, thank you.
A Blessed Life. It's the new book by Hoan Tran, and it's a memoir that documents his journey from Vietnam to finding his place in America. And the author, Hoan, is right here with me now, and we're going to talk all about this. Hoan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell me all about A Blessed Life and what readers are going to find here?
Well, it is, I think, more personal than just a memoir like you just mentioned. It is, it's almost like a life journey. I wrote in the book all of the hardship, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. From those experiences that I've been through as a child, journey from my old country in Vietnam to a strange, different land, and how I was determined to make a life and a fresh new start. That's where the book begins. Hopefully, the readers can find it inspirational, so to speak.
Hoan, would you say that the kind of readers who have had similar experience to you would be the most into this?
Yeah, but I think it goes further than that. And, regardless of the circumstances, I think people who are facing challenges and different difficulties in their lives, regardless whether or not how drastic it is, I think hopefully they can find some motivation and inspiration behind the story and hopefully shed some light into the fact that there's always a brighter tomorrow if we know where to look.
Well, that's a great message. So what was that spark? What made you decide to start on this book?
Well, it's interesting that I have been asked by friends, people who are close to me, family, to recount the experiences. And I put it off for a long time because I think it's deeply personal. I wrote the book piece by piece, and it took me almost 20 years, Corey, in order to finish the book, because I think while it's very therapeutic for me, it's also emotionally draining at times to kind of recount all of the experiences, and because it was so deeply personal. And some of these events, though, I think have been hidden in the back of my mind for years. And that was the source of hesitation, where it took me a while to kind of come to grip to write the book so that I can hopefully, just a little bit of my life story can contribute to hopefully a brighter tomorrow for anybody who finds comfort in the same experiences.
Well, thank you so much for sharing what you've been through to try to help other people. Once you started hooking up with your publisher, you had your manuscript ready and you're ready to publish. What was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
Well, as a first-time writer, understanding the process, and I have to say that Newman Springs, my publisher, has been extremely thoughtful and understanding as they guide me through this process, because there are multiple edits which I never thought would happen. In terms of it's very laboring to go through all the edits. But you know what, though? I think they did a great job in terms of making the book probably an easier read, but at the same time did not interfere with the central meaning of the book, of how I want to express my feelings and the events in the book. And they did a great job of that. I can say it's a kind of a labor of love, although it took a while. But I think I have a much deeper appreciation for the process. And I think I have Newman Springs to thank for that.
Wow, when that first copy came in, Hoan, you're finally holding this thing in your hands. What was that like for you?
Well, I can tell you that it's kind of a mixed feeling. I think at the same time, I was proud of the final product and what it has become.
Again, this book is titled A Blessed Life. It's written by Hoan Tran and published by Newman Springs Publishing. and available at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Hoan, thank you so much for being here and telling me about this book and some about your life. It was great talking.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to help.
Jeffrey Yeatman's new book is a memoir revealing how, through life's struggles and trials, he found the path toward his true self. The book is titled So It Goes, a book about life, love, loss, lessons learned. Jeffrey is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I can't wait to find out more about this book. Jeffrey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Jeffrey, can you tell me all about So It Goes? What are readers going to find here?
They're going to find a story about a guy who was going through a lot of struggles in life. At the time, I was about 30 years old, and so as an adult, I thought, as someone who had been a teacher in my life and I had been a coach, I was someone who could be coachable, and I found myself in the chair of a psychologist speaking about my problems. I was given a lot of great advice from her in terms of mental health and physical health, a lot of guidance through emotional stress and marital stress, work stress. And through that, I started reading a lot, writing a lot. That was really the beginning of how I started writing a book.
Jeffrey, what was that spark to get you started on this?
Well, I'm an English major and an English teacher, so it's kind of every English major's secret dream to want to write a book. So it's not like I haven't always wanted to do that in the past. The fact that I had a story to tell and the fact that the same story was in my head over and over again is really what made me want to go for it and write the book and get it published.
Well, Jeff, what kinds of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
Well, hopefully everybody, certainly anyone that's gone through a tough life struggle. I did learn a lot through my journey with reading and sitting down with a psychologist that there is a lot, depending on who you are, there's a lot to figuring out who you are as an individual, and there's a lot to the gender of that individual. So as a male, there is a certain way your brain works. And then there are a number of helpful books that I read to help me work out the psychology of what it means to be a man, what it means to go through the evolution of the psychological process of getting older and maturing and becoming your own individual. So that was how I really started to figure all that out.
So once you started off on this, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
Absolutely. It took years, but it was really fun and it was very motivating. So it's been a good time and a good process.
And once you started working with your publisher, Newman Springs, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
I think balancing work life and the editing process was something that was very challenging. I also wanted to make sure that, all the I's are dotted and T's were crossed. And there's a lot of really small, intricate details that go into publishing a book that I was unfamiliar with. So it was really great to go through it for the first time. And there was a lot of work, but it was a lot of purposeful work.
There's nothing like seeing that finished product. Got that first copy in, Jeff. You're holding it in your hands for the first time. What was that like?
I was really happy. I was super excited. It was fun to see my name on the cover. I love the way the cover came out. The whole thing really met my mental image. So that was a fun part of the process.
So now you're a published author. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I got to reread it. So I was, going from page one to the end, cover to cover, was something that I felt really great about. It was fun to see it all done off of a computer screen and into a book that I could have in my hands. And it was in the format that I wanted, the font that I wanted. All the titles all the chapter titles are what I wanted. So I think reading it from start to finish the first time was one of the most rewarding things for me too.
What would you say the chances are that we're going to see maybe some more books from you down the road?
Let's say 100%.
Nice. Are you working on anything right now, or you just sort of have some ideas going around?
I do have some ideas. I'm not necessarily close to finishing something that would be a second book, but certainly something that could be a draft or something bigger.
If there was one big idea, one major theme that you want every reader to come away with after they've read So It Goes, what would you say that is?
The main theme that I wrote about is to keep going, trust your instincts, trust your gut. Those were major things that really helped me through my journey and really helped me with the book, whether it was trying to find a psychologist, sitting down to start to write, remembering what I had learned in college and writing classes. So learning to trust your gut is one of the best lessons I think anyone could take away from it.
Well, again, this book is titled So It Goes, a book about life, love, loss, lessons learned. It's written by Jeffrey Yeatman, published by Newman Springs Publishing, and available pretty much everywhere like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Jeff, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for chatting.
All right, thanks so much.
I'm looking at a book right now that's a coming-of-age story set in the aftermath of the Great Depression. It's written by Ophelia Robinson. It's titled At a Crossroad, When Faith Conquers All Fears. Ophelia is right here with me now, and we're going to talk all about this. Ophelia, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell me all about At a Crossroad and what readers are going to get into here?
Well, the story starts off with the main character. His name is Henry, and he's a 13-year-old boy. He's the eldest of 5 children in the Robinson household. It's set in the time right around the rebuilding, right after the Great Depression. It's in rural Georgia, and it's essentially life on the farm. And he's a young boy who aspires to make it to the big leagues. But there's some challenges that he faces along the way, family strife, sicknesses, illnesses. So he's kind of torn because he wants to be able to stay there and take care of the family because he's the eldest. But he's also stuck kind of in this age where he's still yet a boy, kind of more mature than he needs to be for his age. So he kind of has to decide, is it worth leaving the farm for the family or staying with the family for the farm?
What kinds of readers did you have in mind when you were doing this?
Sports fans of all kind. Everybody loves an underdog story. You have Rocky, which is in my top 3 of all movies. There's never been more of an underdog when it comes to sports-themed movies, for sure. It's also very faith-based. When you have a young child that kind of has to mature way beyond his years, it has some adult tones to it. It's rated G, just like God for everybody. Some of the stuff in there maybe is as young as 10 and 11 years old, all the way up to 90 or 95.
So what does your writing background look like, Ophelia? Do you have experience in this kind of thing?
I've only done short stories. I've never had anything published. I did a lot of poetry writing stuff. I did some short story writing for our drama department when I was in high school, but this is the first thing that's ever gotten this far before.
Was this a long journey overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
The publishing part, not so much. The writing part of it all was my 2 daughters, who are now 26 and 27. I spent a great deal of, most of my adulthood, raising kids and working, sometimes multiple jobs. And I had just had it on my heart to write this book because when I was a young girl, I was born and raised in Atlanta, and we were, right there by the Braves. And I just loved baseball. And it's just been one of those things that, I would sit there and I kept a little notebook, a little scratch pad, if you will, counting balls and strikes or whatever, and, trying to figure out a batter's, batting average. And then, less than 2 miles from that was the church that I went to as a child and where I was baptized at 8 and gave my life to Christ. So that's where, they've kind of intersected when it came to baseball and the connection to God.
So once you had your manuscript ready and you hooked up with your publisher, Christian Faith, Ophelia, what did you find the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
I'm going to tell you what, I have never had a more smoother experience. It was even smoother than us closing on our home. When I got through the first 5 chapters of the book, I just felt like God was telling me to go ahead and just try to get something going. Maybe I had heard that maybe if you start, submitting some of your things to kind of give people an idea where your book's meant to go. And I did that. And within an hour, I had Miss Julie from Christian Faith Publishing actually message me and say, hey, do you have time to talk? I like what I see. And come to find out, her father was actually the backup catcher for the Yankees. So it was like, okay, you don't know what. And I got chill bumps thinking about it because there's no way God did not have his hand in that. It was actually, I started the book. It had been on my heart for years. I found the time last May. I sat in my room for essentially 23 days and pounded it out with my 3 pups.
And I think this will show readers that faith will conquer all fears. Again, it's titled At a Crossroad, When Faith Conquers All Fears. It's written by Ophelia Robinson, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Ophelia, it's been so wonderful talking with you tonight and learning all about At a Crossroad. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Author Bart Mahrer is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. He's just got a new book out titled It's a Silver Lining, and we're going to talk all about it. Bart, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate it, Corey. Thank you.
Bart, can you tell me all about what readers are going to find when they open up It's a Silver Lining?
It's a Silver Lining was started as the motivation behind it was just journaling so I could discover who was the big villain in my life causing me all these problems. And a couple months into it, I discovered I was the only one at the scene of the crime every time. And so I started, just taking a little deeper look, and I discovered that, there aren't good times or bad times. There's just times. And, sometimes we enjoy it and sometimes we don't, but there's lessons to be learned in every situation that pops up in our life. And situations are going to pop up all the time. And just, looking for these silver linings has changed my life.
Bart, what kinds of readers do you think would really connect with this?
Well, I think it crosses a lot of, genre, or populations, demographics, whatever you call it. I had a drinking problem, and that was one of the big causes of where I was coming from. There may be people in recovery that are interested in what I have to say. There may be people that aren't ready for recovery that this may touch. And there's also spiritual people and people that just want to find answers to what's going on in their life. And I tell you what, Corey, silver linings they're to be discovered and shared. And I tell you, I read this book because I have to for editing purposes, and I'm going through it all the time, and I still cry and I laugh every time I read it.
So when it comes to the writing and publishing thing, is this your first time around, or do you have some experience in this?
No, I'm a first timer.
Wow, being your first time, was this a long journey for you, the whole writing thing and the publishing, all that?
It's interesting. I started this during the real estate crash in some 2009, 2010, when I was just struggling to do life. I had already stopped drinking 5 years before that, but I expected things to go easier in my life, and life got lifey. And so I started then, and I just journaled, and I just kept adding on, and I kept using experiences in my life to show how things seemed hopeless and horrible, and it turned out they were in my best interest. And so I published initially 2014. I had a family member ask me to take the book down because her name was in it. I took it down and kind of gave up because I was busy selling real estate again. That was about 3 or 4 years ago. I just started adding on again, and it just kept building, and I kept finding more silver linings, and I just wanted to share it. So I've been at this for 15 years.
I love that message, Bart. So once you hooked up with your publisher, Hoan Tran, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing end of things for you?
The time it takes. It really, I've had great communication, and the publisher has been wonderful. No issues with the publisher. I guess the issues were with the publishing industry and just the time it takes. I'm a hyper guy, kind of. Back in the early 70s, they wanted to put me on Ritalin, and my mother said no. And I'm glad she did, but I don't do well with extended time periods. The book is currently in publishing for audiobook. And again, it's slow as molasses, and I don't do well with that. But I understand it, and I've accepted it.
So I could only imagine what you were thinking and feeling whenever that first copy came in. It was real. Finally, it's in your hands. It's a silver lining. What was that like, Bart?
It was a relief to see it, come to reality. And I felt a sense of accomplishment, but I also knew that it didn't matter if I didn't share it. And if I didn't tell friends, tell family, tell everybody that here's what I've done, and you may like it, you may not. Kind of the joke with some of the acquaintances over the years is, hey, this guy might be a jerk, but I hear it's a good read.
I think so many readers are going to be into this book. Again, it's titled It's a Silver Lining. It's written by Bart Mahrer and published by Hoan Tran Publishing, and available, basically everywhere. Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes. Go down the street to your local bookshop and you'll find it there as well. Oh, Bart, it's been so great to talk with you tonight and to learn about your story and about this book. Thanks again for being here.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Grace Came in the Morning, A Widow's Awakening. It's the new book that just came out by Trish Stanbery, and she's right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we're going to talk all about the book. Trish, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate your time, Trish. Can you tell me about this book? What are readers going to find here?
Well, it's kind of like a little memoir of my own, pretty much about how I was raised in a Christian home, knew a lot of things about the Lord, but it took a tragedy for me to realize I didn't really know the Lord, or He didn't know me until the loss of my husband. And it's a story of growth, of going through a journey of grief with grace and coming to know the Lord in a very true and real way.
Wow, you have a great story to tell. What made you decide, hey, I'm going to tell my story and publish it?
Well, to be honest, I didn't want to. My book I had to reveal a lot about who I was before I came to know the Lord that I didn't really feel I wanted the world to know about me. But after a year after my husband's passing, I just felt led by the Lord to share my story in the hopes that it would help someone else and to just be real and vulnerable in doing so that He would get all the glory from it.
And what sorts of readers were you reaching out to here? Who do you think would benefit the most?
For me, I feel it's more beneficial for people who are going through some set of grief and knowing that you don't have to go through it alone. It's easier to walk through that grief with the Lord, but it's also a story for those who feel that they were raised in a conservative home or in a certain way to know the Lord and may have been deceived their whole life in thinking that they knew a lot about the Lord, but not really, just because it was forced on them or because it was just the way that they were raised, and not really having that relationship for their self, but writing the skirt tales of maybe their parents or guardians or leaderships that they were raised by in a church home. And I feel that I allowed myself to be deceived in thinking that because I was raised in a church home my whole life, that I knew nothing other than going to a Christian school, going to a Christian church, and then a Bible college, that I had a relationship with the Lord myself when I didn't. It took me going through a tragedy of realizing in that moment when I cried out for help and being taught my whole life that the Lord will never leave you or forsake you, I felt left and I felt forsaken, and I was very angry and wondering why He was allowing this to happen to me. And in those dark moments when it was quiet and still, when I had nowhere else to turn, He found me, and He made me see things for what it was truly was, and how lost I really was, and how I needed Him but didn't have Him. And He rescued me, and He's been with me every day since then.
I love that message. So when it comes to writing and publishing and all that, do you have experience in this, or is this all kind of a new thing for you?
It is a very new thing. I've always enjoyed writing. I love to write poetry, which I actually have 2 poems that I wrote in the midst of my grief that are attached in my book as well. Poetry, it has always been an outlet for me since I was a kid, but actually writing books and things, this was my very first experience with it.
So once you sat down, started on it, was this a long journey, the writing and publishing, the whole thing?
Actually, it's very interesting. Once I gave up running from writing the book and sat down, it took me a total of maybe a full month of actually writing my entire book. It took longer to go through the editing and the publishing and getting it available to readers than it actually did for me to write it. Because once I sat down, it just flowed and I couldn't stop until it was over.
Well, we have a lot of people listening right now who are authors just starting out. Trish, I'm sure you've learned a lot along the way of doing this. Do you have maybe some advice that you could throw out there?
When you have a thought, an idea, don't run from it. Sit down, make your notes, write, and don't give up on your dream. See it through, because it's very rewarding when it comes to fruition.
Wow, what a great book. I think so many people are going to benefit from this. Again, it's Grace Came in the Morning, A Widow's Awakening. It's written by Trish Stanbery, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available pretty much everywhere, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also right down the street at your local bookshop. Trish, what a wonderful time I've had talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
The book I'm looking at tells the story of one man's journey to understand God through his struggles and trials. It's written by Arthur Steers. It's titled Lord with a Hood, Volume 1. Arthur is right here with me now, and we're going to talk all about this book. Arthur, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Can you tell me all about Lord with a Hood, Volume 1, and what readers can expect here?
Lord with a Hood is a book that I made. It's about Lord with a Hood, journey with Jesus, and how Satan uses deception and lies to lead people astray like evil Lord with a Hood. In the book, Lord with a Hood was given powers, so evil Lord with a Hood may be stopped, and so others might believe in Jesus. This book also demonstrates spiritual warfare all believers face.
What sort of a target readership were you going for here?
My target readers are teens and people who have trouble reading the Bible. This book acts like a daily devotional. I believe my readers will appreciate the title. It is original, and I believe it will catch my readers' eyes.
So, Arthur, how did this all come about? Where'd you get the idea to start this?
When I came about the book, the concept was based on Marvel and DC. But what made me think about it was when I was younger, I went to the playground in elementary, and I would put on my hood when I had my jacket, and I role-played it. And that's how the idea came along. I eventually started writing little stories when I was younger, and it became a thing. And around 2019, 2020, I started working on it more completely. And this is how this original one came about.
So this is your first book then?
Yes.
How long of a journey was this for you, being your first one? The writing and publishing and everything, was this a long period of time?
This book didn't take me as long. It took me about 2 to 3 months to finish this book.
So after all the hard work you put into it, when you finally got your first copy, Arthur, what was that like for you?
When I first held the book, I was well pleased with how it looked and how it turned out. And seeing the character Lord with a Hood and the story come to life, it was something I would not have words for.
So now you're a published author. What's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
The people getting to read it and be inspired by the character.
So a lot of our listeners right now are authors just starting out. Arthur, do you have some advice maybe that you could offer them?
If it was a creative concept like this, I would say go with what you feel is right for your story. But if it was nonfiction, I would say be patient and examine the details.
So looking ahead, do you think you'll be writing and publishing more down the road?
Yeah, as if this one goes well, I have already 2 that are finished. And if everyone likes this book, I'm happy to make more. But it's the same idea, and I call it the LWAH universe. And I have multiple I'm working on.
I've noticed a lot of authors also love to read as well. So, Arthur, would you call yourself a big reader?
Not so much. The main things I read is the Bible and biblical books. One of the reasons that this book was created was because I know with myself, I didn't like reading a lot when I was younger. And it was hard for me to read so long, and that's what made me spread out, keep these stories short to make it like a devotional.
I think a lot of readers will be touched by this book. Again, it's titled Lord with a Hood. It's written by Arthur Steers, published by Covenant Books, and available at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Arthur, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
You too.
Pastor Brian T. Lees has written a new book that's a devotional that inspires Christians to boldly live out their faith. It's titled Courage, the Power to Stand Out Without Fear. Brian is right here with me now, and we're going to talk all about it. Pastor Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for the call today. I look forward to speaking with you.
Well, Brian, I'm excited to learn about courage. Can you tell me all about this book?
Well, it started when I learned that a few people are afraid or self-conscious to admit that they're Christians. I was at a sales conference one time, and the director asked everybody to name an accomplishment they were proud of. A girl named Sarah said the day she became a Christian, and when he called the next person, she walked out. We never saw her again. She was kind of embarrassed. And I figured we don't need to be embarrassed. We need to stand up strong. We're not ashamed. We should not be afraid to tell everybody we follow Christ. So I wrote a book on that.
That's a great message. What sorts of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
I think this will connect with just about everybody. I relate it to real life. I relate it to some of the challenges that I've gone through. And I openly challenge everybody to stand up and do the right thing.
Well, Brian, is this all new ground to you? Have you ever written or published a book before?
Yes, but not anything in the Christian realm. My background involves magic, clowning, and music. I play B-flat, E-flat, brass, drums, keyboards, and I combined all of that into my preaching services. So I do have other books published in that realm, but they're for those specific individuals. This is the first one I published in the Christian faith.
So once you got started on this, was this a long process overall, the writing, publishing, whole thing?
Yeah, I would say right about a year from start to actual hard copy finish.
So once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
I didn't find too much anything challenged with it when I actually started with Christian Faith Publishing. The challenge was initially writing the book. I followed a process that I learned from an interview that Red Skelton had. I'd recommend other writers if they were interested. But when I contacted Christian Faith, they were wide open to my suggestions, my comments. They made recommendations that some I thought were nice and we accepted, some I didn't like and I expected why, and we altered them. They were just very harmonious in working with me. I'm very pleased I selected them to publish.
And it must have been a great day whenever you got your first copy in, you're holding this in your hands for the first time. Brian, what was that like?
Oh, it was nice. I was really proud of what I did. I shared it with some close friends, and just everybody was equally happy that I had accomplished this and got it down in writing. I've been asked to put together some presentations for possible guest speaking here in the future, and it just opened the doors to allow me to branch out and help spread the word.
So when you think about it, you have so much work out there. What's the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
I'm hoping it inspires other people to get involved. I preach primarily at senior centers. My congregations are people in independent living, people in assisted living, some in memory care and their families. And in my area, there's no other clergy that's reaching out to these people, and they are so appreciative for people to come in and share the gospel.
Looking down the road, do you have plans to write and publish more, maybe?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I've got 3 books on the back burner now, going a piece at a time. Yeah, I intend to keep writing.
We have a lot of listeners right now who are also, they're just starting out in this whole thing. So, Brian, do you maybe have some advice that you could offer?
Yes, I do. I learned a long time ago through an interview that I listened to with Red Skelton. And Red woke up every morning on Monday and he wrote an outline for a story. And on Friday, he looked at all the outlines that he read and he selected the best outline he had and he wrote a story from that. And so all of my writings start with an outline. And the outline is flexible. I can expand it if I need to. And it helps me stay on track and focus from keeping a consistent point from the opening to the close. I would recommend writers begin with an outline and then expand from there.
It's titled Courage, The Power to Stand Out Without Fear. It's written by Pastor Brian T. Lees, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, and also right down the street at your local bookshop. Well, Brian, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for the phone call, and I wish everybody have a happy and blessed day and a blessed week.
Who is a spy? That's the name of the new book written by Gloria Penn, and it's a historical tale of loyalty, deception, and intrigue. And we're going to find out all about it. Gloria is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Gloria, welcome. I appreciate you joining me.
Hi.
Gloria, can you tell me all about Who is a Spy? What are readers going to get into here?
Well, Lady Adelia is the main character of the story. She's a young peasant who's thrust into the elaborate world of the Duke's castle. She's desperate to maintain the simple honesty of her youth, but it seems that honesty can only make her a victim to deceiving people. When the Duke's daughter is accused of heresy, Lady Adelia is burdened with far more secrets than she ever bargained for. Armed with the tenuous friendships of a few knights and the reminders of her own father's valor, Adelia sets out on a quest to bring the truth of the matter to light.
Oh, Gloria, what was your target readership for this?
When I first started writing, I mainly had Christian teenage girls in mind, but I've realized that my audience is really anyone who can appreciate a good, clean story with plenty of historical detail and lots of action.
So I'm curious, how did this all come about? Where did this idea come from?
I took a little writing class since I've been interested in writing for quite a while, and I got started from there. So I really like medieval history, and that's kind of where it came from.
So this is your first book then?
It is, yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Being your first book, was this a long journey for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
It didn't take too long. It was about a year worth of actual writing and then another year editing, another year actually publishing.
So once you had that manuscript down and you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, Gloria, what did you find the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
Probably the editing. It was long and intense, but it was really good because I think it really made my story come alive.
And I can't imagine what you were thinking, what you were feeling whenever the first copy came in and it was real. You're holding it in your hands for the first time, Gloria. What was that like for you?
It was absolutely amazing. It was very incredible to see my writing go from a story typed on 8.5 by 11 paper to a recognizable book with a cover and correct formatting. It made it really seem real to me that I had written a book and not just some story.
How have your personal experiences played into the plot of this book and how you've written this?
I would say that they have in some kind of ways. I haven't consciously borrowed ideas, but everything that happens to us does influence us in some kind of way. So I would say that it has probably affected me.
So now you're officially a published author. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Probably the fact that it allows me to share what I've written with a lot more people. When I just had it like in a notebook, it's kind of hard to hand someone a 3-ring binder. But it's easier to do with a printed book. You can just give it to people.
And are you the kind of writer that writes from an outline of sorts, or do you just kind of start writing and see what happens from there?
Well, I think writing is kind of like building a house. You have to build a good foundation. So I would take an outline first, definitely.
Does the writing ever get challenging, like writer's block and things like that for you?
Actually, so far I've never gotten writer's block. I find that if I have a good outline, a good synopsis, and a good plot, it keeps me excited going straight through.
And I'm looking at it right now. This is a great cover. Was that hard to determine what you wanted this to look like?
It was. I had a couple of other ideas that kind of fell through once I started working with the publisher, but I searched around and I found that one, and I thought it was very fitting.
So we have a lot of people right now who are just starting out in this whole thing too. So is there maybe some advice that you could toss out there for them?
You shouldn't write just to tell other people what they want to hear. You should write what God puts on your heart to write. It's not popular advice, and it might not make you a best-selling author, but that's not really what life's about. So I'd say write what's important to you.
Well, again, this book is titled Who is a Spy? It's written by Gloria Penn, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Gloria, it's been really nice talking with you tonight and learning all about Who is a Spy. Thanks again for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, this book is an exploration of life after death and eternal destiny. It's written by Michael T. Conklin. It's titled Crossing the Chasm. Michael is here with me, and We're going to talk all about this great book. Michael, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Well, Michael, I can't wait to find out about Crossing the Chasm. What are readers going to expect here?
I'll tell you, that's an interesting question because I believe expectation leads to disappointment. So don't expect. I would say simply look forward to, how do I say it? Look forward to maybe looking at the afterlife, death, however you want to call it, in a better light rather than the end. Because for myself, honestly, I can't even explain it very well. For a long time, since I would say a kid, maybe in my teens, I really didn't believe in death, believe it or not. It just seemed like there was more than just the body's gone and, it goes in the ground. I don't know how to explain it except to say I really didn't believe in death. As time progressed in my life and I got older, from that time, I got into some trouble. Honestly, I was a wild kid. That's what I had to say because I was a really wild youngster, and I got expelled from school for drinking whiskey, and that was like 8th grade, something like that. I had an aunt, God rest her soul, my Aunt Gloria, who was very dear to me, and she was kind enough to start taking me to church, Catholic Mass specifically. She took me for a few weeks, but then due to her job, she wasn't able to take me anymore. And so my dear friend Lance Tersey, God rest his soul, he told me that I could ride to church with he and his family because they were going to the same church. God bless Lance and his whole family, Mr. and Mrs. Tersey and Lance's sisters. They welcomed me with open arms, and they took me to the same church for probably another 2 weeks. Another 2 Sundays I went to church with them. And then I believe it was my dad's conscience or something. I don't know. My dad started taking myself and my 2 younger brothers to church, the same church. It was a country church, St. Thomas Aquinas Parish in Forestburg, New York. That was where my walk with the Lord began. And long story short, it's been a challenge many times because I'll just admit it for myself. I'm selfish. I really am a selfish person. I mean, there's things that I want, and when I can get it now, I want it now. If I can't, then I do my best to be patient. I say that because it wasn't as if I woke up one morning and just started praying and heeding my conscience. It's been a learning process.
Well, Michael, as we wrap up our time here tonight, looking down the road, do you think you got some more books in you? Can we expect more?
Absolutely. And I hesitate like that just because I can't take any credit for this book, honestly, sir. I believe God used my friend Mitty to, give me a nudge and, well, more than that, she really motivated me. I can't take credit for the book because not only after, but as I was reading, I believe God opened my mind and my heart to see those things that I wrote about. And as I was writing, I did the writing. Don't take me wrong. It wasn't like some craziness, like God moving my hand. No, but there were times when I would have to pause and think about how to join this area or that area, what to write. And I didn't have to wait long. And it just came to me. And so I say all that to say this. Not if, but when God impresses it upon my heart again to do something, to work on something else, I'd be glad to, because I enjoy writing. I would definitely like to do it.
Well, that's wonderful. I think so many readers are going to benefit from this book. Again, it's titled Crossing the Chasm. It's written by Michael T. Conklin, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available basically everywhere like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Oh, Michael, it's been so nice talking with you tonight and learning about your story and about Crossing the Chasm. Thanks again.
My pleasure, and God bless.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.